morning, everyone. Whether you're an Australian company looking to expand overseas or any professional or non-professional seeking for more information about a country, you are in the right place, listening today to ANDYS researchers. So in this context of international business, the Australian Department of Foreign Trades and Affairs missioned us to address the issue of obtaining accurate data and information, as well as their analysis, that you Australian companies are facing. And we hope to help you in your decision-making process in order to reduce the risk that could come out from these decisions. So today we're going to address Germany's profile, right? And we will show how it has mainly benefited from globalization, then assess its economic and human development, not forgetting, to look at cultural distances, and then we will be able to look at more specializations in certain industries when looking to trade overseas.
Okay, let's first have a look at Germany's background, the political system. The country is a democratic federal parliamentary republic, where federal legislative power is vested in the Parliament of Germany. The lower house, the upper house, representative body at the regional state, located in Berlin, and whose members are not elected. And the country has a mixed economic system, which includes a variety of private freedom combined with centralized economic planning and government regulation. Also, Germany has a civil law system. The constitutional, administrative, and civil courts are separated. The most important law is the Basic Law, which distributed power between the government and the lender in 1949. Important to know that in Germany, writings of legal scholars has significant influence on the courts. Okay, so now Nikhil will help us explain how Germany has benefited from globalization.
All right, so how has globalization impacted Germany? Let's take a step back in time. So after World War II, Germany was segregated into two parts: the German Democratic Republic, known as East Germany, and the Federal Republic, known as West Germany, occupied by American, British, and French origin of its current political system. Then in the year 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall occurred, which marked three big points. Number one, the reunification of Germany, the starting point of a new era of globalization in Germany, as well as the end of the Cold War. Let's start off with the first benefit of globalization, which is international organization. So as a part of globalization, development of new international organizations permitted to structure, set boundaries, and regulate the international market. Germany took part of this process by becoming an important member for a number of them. In this case, Germany, alongside other nations, had signed the Marrakesh Agreement, which paved the way for the rise of the World Trade Organization. So as an active member of the World Trade Organization, Germany's market has increased considerably over these last few decades. Germany has also benefited as a representative of the 7 advanced economies in the world, known as the G7. Since 1975, the country has been in the forefront in tackling many global issues such as climate change, security policies, and trade. Lastly, Germany is also part of the United Nations, where they aim to maintain international peace, provide humanitarian aid, and foster sustainable development worldwide.
Interesting. What about the EU then?
Oh, sure. As globalization was expanding across Europe, the Maastricht Treaty was signed in 1992 by 12 countries. This established the notion of greater union for people in Europe, which led to greater flows of goods and services, people, capital, and ideas within Europe and Germany, and between Germany and the rest of the world. So as a member of the EU, Germany is subjected to fewer barriers of trade, lower business costs, as well as higher competition for services and ease of labor movement between the EU states. Another benefit that Germany has as a member would be borderless travel, either for individual or for business purposes. So as you guys can see from figure 1, it shows trading across borders, which is a strong point for the ease of doing business within the EU. Whereas in figure 2, it shows or displays the cost of importing across borders, where actually Germany does not have to pay anything due to the free movement within the EU. Due to this, Germany has seen a large increase in foreign direct investments from multinational corporations such as Ford and General Motors. And additionally, Germany has also maintained an average of around 2.3 billion euros worth of foreign direct investments since 1971 until 2019.
Thank you, Nikhil. This is a good point of attraction for Australian firms looking toward international expansion. And on top of benefiting from trade within the EU, Germany has also increased trade across all other countries and is today the 3rd biggest exporter in the world.
That is right. Its exports represent 1.3 billion US dollars.
Right. And as part of its most main trading partners, there are like the USA, the France, and China. And some of their top exporting products are machinery and automotive, because in fact, globalization has also helped Germany to prosper in the field of technology. And Nikhil can tell us a lot about it.
Sure thing. With the help of lower trade barriers, Germany invested over 92 billion euros into R&D in order to fund around 500 research and innovation clusters in the country. Due to this, Germany has remained competitive over the likes of other cheaper manufacturers all across Asia. The industries that have experienced the spillover effect in R&D are mainly automobile, the aviation, and the textile industry. For example, companies such as BMW and Volkswagen has benefited from globalization since they're known for their German engineering, safety, innovation, and quality standards by their consumers worldwide. Another industry that Germany has that is driving technological advancements is the electronics and ICT industry. But more information will be included to support the statement in the report, as we do not have much time to cover it in this video. So the next point would be the enabling of Germany to outsource for cheaper cost. As mentioned previously, globalization has lower trade barriers, making it easier for multinational firms to outsource their production and labor to more cost-effective countries. Volkswagen has moved most of its production to Poland for their export purposes and to Russia for their domestic market. Furthermore, BMW has also considered the possibility of moving some of its production to China amidst the fear of the tariffs that are imposed by the Trump administration.
So the movement of labor and production to cheaper markets has actually allowed German firms to remain competitive during challenging economic times. But what about environment then?
Well, currently, Germany is assisting the EU with their 2020 European environmental policy, which aims to preserve the natural capital of the Union, turns the Union into a green and low-carbon economy while safeguarding citizens from environmental-related issues. We have now seen several positive consequences of globalization. What about the negative ones, Nikhil?
Yeah, there are some negative points. The first point being the Eurozone crisis. So as a member of the EU, Germany had to give up their national interests and exchange rate policies and uphold certain requirements such as a government debt that is less than 60% of their GDP or their budget deficit being less than 3%. However, some members have behaved irresponsibly and failed to achieve some of these standards. One good example being 2011 with Greece, who have signaled potential sovereign debt defaults. This caused a strain in advanced economies such as Germany as well as France, who had to step in to provide some financial aid with the help of the IMF. The second point being the refugee crisis. There are certain uncertainties surrounding the refugee crisis in Germany, one of it being the safety of the German citizens. On the New Year's Eve of 2016, it was reported that there were a gang of refugees that have committed sexual assault to more than around 600 women, prompting a large political backlash over refugee policies. The debate over refugee policy during Germany's election had also caused Angela Merkel's party a majority win, failed to cause Angela Merkel's party a majority win in the government, and they have failed to form a coalition ever since. Lastly, would be that some industries have pretty much lost due to globalization. What I mean by this is that the biggest winners from globalization are mainly Germany's automobile machinery as well as chemical industries. But for Germany's shoemaking and furniture industries, the manufacturing of simple electrical equipment such as radios or even televisions are all under pressure because of globalization. Bigger export countries such as China have been taking away businesses like shoemaking away from Germany and have pretty much pushed up unemployment rate in the country.
Well, overall, we can all agree on that Germany has been a winner from globalization, right? Now, Andrew, can you please tell us about human and economic development, please?
We are now going to evaluate Germany's level of economic development. The first overall measure to be considered is the GDP. And Germany's GDP is currently $4 trillion. And as you can see from the graph, it has dropped by 0.9% from the period of 2018 to 2019. The reason for this drop is because of the sharp deceleration on the export markets, but also because the world trade has lost its pace. However, this is just a short-term matter and nothing to stress about because the GDP is projected to grow by 24% in 2024. This is a huge potential that can be recognized in terms of economic growth in the future. In regards to the GNI, the World Bank has estimated Germany's GNI to be around $55,800, and in comparison to Australia with just $49,000. This indicates the level of income received by the residents and the power that they can use to purchase products. Now, what about prices and cost of living in Germany? The graph here indicates that the inflation level has dropped by 0.59% in 2019, and inflation is expected to be 2.23% in 2023 and 2024. Now, the European Central Bank has a target which is around below but close to 2%, and this has been achieved by Germany at this point. In regards to the unemployment rate, do people in Germany have jobs? The unemployment rate is currently 3.4% in 2019, and the unemployment rate is better in comparison to France and Italy, as you can see from the graph. They're all showing a downtrend, but Germany is giving better position as they only have 3% of unemployment.
True.
And this indicates an optimal level of production, easier job access, and higher consumer buying power. This also increased the financial activities in Germany. However, to support an optimal level of production, strong infrastructure is needed. Germany, unfortunately, have an infrastructure problem. Their infrastructure is slowly deteriorating due to lack of investment and resulting in crumbling bridges and also traffic. This gives them a bad reputation for their efficiency. Now, to sum up, here are some of the strengths and weaknesses of the German economy. Some of the key strengths include having a strong increased GDP levels and low structural unemployment. And the weaknesses includes low bank profitabilities and some capacity constraints. For further information, you could refer to our report.
Good, that's all about output measures, but development can also be assessed by opportunities and capabilities that people enjoy, right?
Yes, that's what Amartya Sen, a Nobel Prize winning economist, suggested. As you can see from the table, Germany has an age debt index of 0.94 and a life expectancy of 81 years, which is very high. And they're currently ranked as fifth, moving just one position from the period of 2012 to 2017, and this is a very reliable ranking for the future.
Moreover, to measure development, we should especially watch out for basic healthcare, especially for children, and basic education, especially for women. And Germany is very aware on this point, and it has set up growth priorities for 2019, stepping up public investment to 1.1 billion euros in childcare improvement programs. It has set full primary schools tax advantage for married couples, and it raised quality standards in early childhood education. In conclusion, Germany's both economic and human developments are high in comparison to the world. And you may now wonder if you, as an Australian firm, were to consider to establish in Germany, should consider more its level of economic or human development.
Well, Australia is ranked third in terms of the world's best humanly developed countries, so the two countries are pretty close in terms of human development, and both are advanced so that the Australian firm wouldn't have numerous industries in which it could help Germany with human development issues. Australia is also the 27th country to which Germany exports the most products, and Australia imports the equivalent of $16 billion from Germany, while it only exports around $4 billion to the country each year. This shows that Australia has still a lot of improvements to do on the economic level if it wants to shift towards an export country. True. On the other hand, Australia is ahead of Germany in some industries such as mining, which means they are setting up opportunities to catch the German demand in these industries. Also, establishing Australian companies in Germany would benefit Australia's economy itself as it improves or carries on economic relationships between both countries. This leads to a more exchange between the two countries, and therefore there will be more expertise and knowledge in industries where Australia stays behind.
In conclusion, an Australian firm willing to set up in Germany really needs to take into account those economic measurements in order to estimate accurately the potential profit it could make. Before approaching cultural aspects, do not forget that economic and human development are strongly linked, and that by strengthening cooperation in certain industries, it will also impact human development indicators. And AGAG's reports underlines precisely the increasing cooperation on science and education, but also the exchange on diversity, migration, integration, and refugee that occurs between Australia and Germany. Okay, let's now talk about cultures.
We must say that both countries are multicultural. According to the OECD, Germany is the second most popular immigration country after the USA. Among its 82.6 million of inhabitants, 90 million of them have a migratory background. This brings us to conclude that Germany is a country which has been becoming more and more multicultural among the last years. Nevertheless, Australia has an even higher multicultural background. According to the results of OECD's 2015 research, which showed that Australian is the second population with the most immigrant backgrounds. On the religion-wise, about 65 to 75% of the population of Germany are Christians, and in Australia, the major religion is also Christianity, and with the denominations such as Catholics, Baptist, and Lutheran, etc. The education system are quite similar as well, except German divides their education system into 5 different levels, whereas Australians divide them into 3 different levels, but all the levels are pretty similar. The only element of culture that is dissimilar is the language. On the one hand, people in Germany speak mainly, for 95%, of course, German, and the language is of the low context culture type. As they speak, words convey the speaker's message very explicitly to the listeners. On the other hand, in Australia, 77% of the population speaks English, and the rest are non-English speakers, which Mandarin takes the most proportion. The language is less of a low context culture type, so cultural clues takes more parts in the meaning of their sentences than for German, even though it is still more of a low than high context type.
Cultural gap through several theories. Using constant as cultural dimensions, we can recognize some similarities between both cultures. The dimension in which Australia and Germany score the same is in power distance. In regard to a company, this means that individuals and managers expect to be consulted. Superiors rely on employees very often. Both cultures are more aware of individual progress rather than collective. But Australian culture is much more individualistic, as we can see in the difference.
Right.
In the business world, employees are expected to be hired and promoted thanks to their own merits. As we can see, Germany and Australia are considered masculine societies. They have a preference towards achievement and heroism. Performance at work is very important for both of them. In the graph, it could be seen that Australians tend to care less than Germans about their future. German society doesn't deal very well with the lack of uncertainty. They fill the gap with strongly relying on expertise. This could be an impediment to economic growth because in some business they need to invest and that implies risk. Top managers usually invest high effort in investing decisions. The big difference is in the long-term orientations. Australians shows great respect for traditions. They are not very keen to change. In contrast, Germans are not afraid of cultural change. They can adapt to every situation when it is required. This could be a problem for Australians who want to start a company in Germany. They would need to be aware of the importance to be practical.
Yep.
In contrast, we find out that Germans and Australians seem to be very different when they try to control their desires and wants. Germans are not very indulgent, whereas Australians may seem to lack of self-control. This could be a big issue in the workplace because each country has a different opinion regarding to leisure time.
So all this sounds very good, but there are some critics as well, right?
Yeah.
Hofstede is admittedly the most influential thinker when it comes to national culture, but let's not forget there are many controversies with his theory. These dimensions are based on the answers of employees of one single company known as the IBM, which is an American company. So this fact can bias the analysis. Also, it does not take into account individual level differences, as well as within country differences in multicultural ones. And knowing how strongly multicultural are in Germany and Australia, this point is sensible for our analysis. Moreover, culture values can change with migrations, and the latter can occur at high levels in both of our countries, right?
Yeah, right, Nankai. Therefore, we need to nuance the analysis we just presented with the other theories. For example, using Trompenaar's cultural dimensions. After 10 years of research, they conclude that there are 7 dimensions in which people from different countries could be distinguished. Each culture has a reference on one side of its dimensions. Moreover, this theory identifies typical cultures for each dimension. Only in the universalist dimension, they are considered as typical universalist country. So it can be said that its cultures don't differ one to another, but they don't really share much similarities.
Yep.
Another argument to back up this idea is analyzing cultural clusters. Australia is part of the Anglo cluster, with Canada, New Zealand, and Germany is in the Germany cluster with Switzerland and Austria. All in all, both countries score similar in some dimensions of Hofstede's theory. Regarding to Trompenaar's research, they are not opposite but neither similar. So we cannot predict how similar they are gonna become over the years, but we can say that they won't turn disparate.
Okay, let's focus on how a country develops a strategy for the good of its future economic development. In which industries should it specialize when you're looking to trade with other countries? How can we evaluate this? Well, David Ricardo's view demonstrates that a country's national wealth will be maximized when specializing in the industries you are most efficient at. But watch out, we are not talking about all the industries you would be more efficient in than any other country. Only a few, the most efficient ones. So this is actually the comparative advantage theory. Okay, so once you've understand this, you may wonder how we can evaluate in which industries you are actually most efficient. No worries. Porter's competitive advantage defines country and firm-specific factors to identify, and it's the interaction of those factors that will determine the success of a nation. So let's apply this to Germany and Australia, that is, finding and analyzing the specific factors they possess in order to come up with which industries they should specialize when looking to trade overseas. In the case of Germany, the two main industries in which they have comparative advantage are automotive and chemical products industry.
That's right. Indeed, it has various natural resources available for production, that is, basic factors. One of them is scrap metal used in cars production. Thus, its automotive industry is more efficient and cost-effective compared to importing it. Germany also enjoys a strategic geographic location close to other EU members such as France, Belgium, and Switzerland, which makes transportation costs cheaper. Also, due to a combination of high investment in R&D and public education system, Germany benefits from an advanced and efficient production system with skilled labor force. As you can see from your report, Germany's cars exports is valued at 158 billion and packaged medicaments is valued at 50.6 billion. This high demand justifies that consumers are demanding more of these German industries' products. The image from the report also displays that Germany is efficient in supporting industries, which is the machines industry. Components such as engine parts, valves, and liquid parts are a good example of how Germany benefits from the spillover effect from the machines industry into the automotive industry, as they're able to use these parts at a much cheaper cost rather than importing these parts from other countries. Once again, it justifies how Germany is efficient in the automobile industry compared to competing companies from other countries. That is the reason why we would suggest German companies to specialize in that industry when looking to expand overseas.
In contrast, Australia is solely specialized in mining. In terms of resources, it possesses some of the largest reserves of the world for metals and mining. It is the principal producer in the world in minerals such as natural gas and coal. To encourage the growth of the sector, government has developed a consistent regulatory. Safety and wealth workforce is in this field even more important due to the risk of mining activities. Due to environmental issues, the industry has invested in new technology in order to protect the environment, preserve biodiversity, and ensure the future of the sector. Technology adoption also enhances worker safety and it boosts productivity. What has also delivered significant benefits to this sector are the free trade agreements. In regards to the demand, metals have a wide range of uses. Products such as steel and aluminium are used in a wide range of activities across the economy, particularly in the construction and manufacturing sectors. Therefore, extraction increases as market. As the demand grows, consumers are unconsciously becoming sophisticated and they have good resources to getting quality goods at reasonable prices, which stimulate competitiveness between suppliers. We must point out that the two biggest companies in the sectors are Australians. These firms take advantage of other countries' natural reserves. They buy mines in countries such as Canada or Peru to mine them and then selling the products using its brand name.
Thank you, Sanso, for this ending point. We hope that this video has been useful and we recommend you to have a look at the 2018 report of the Australian-Germany Advisory Group, AGEG, which emphasizes the increased trade and investments between Australia and Germany. And among others, it insists on the fact that both countries remain committed to liberalizing trade and investments through a future Australian-EU free trade agreement. And that's a point on which we will have to keep an eye, because it can change a lot in the country's relations. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you so
Keep it
much.
up.